Bible Space Time.
In Luke chapter 23 verse 43, Jesus said, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." But according to John chapter 20 verse 17, Jesus didn't go to heaven on that day. So, did he went to heaven without Jesus, or was it just a figurative language to make him believe that he will be saved?
Bible clearly said that there are specific times for Jesus' second coming, resurrection of righteous people, and judgment for the evil. We don't go to heaven or hell in the order of the time of our death, but many Christians believe that we go to heaven or hell one by one right at the time we die, because they misunderstood the structure of time. Jesus is talking in the perspective of that person's time view. In the person's time view, he will go to heaven on the time of his death, but in Jesus' time perspective, he will not be there with him on that day, because Jesus didn't go to heaven on that day.
So, how is it different in terms of different persons' time perspective?
Let's say, somebody died in 1950, then he has been dead for 60 years, and we might wonder what he has been doing during these years. For our time perspective, these 60 years surely exist, so we assume that the dead person is somehow spending these years doing something somewhere, but that 60 years is actually counting our time, not the dead person's time. What were we doing before we were born? Were we waiting to be born, or were we spending time in heaven or in hell? No, we didn't exist at that time. There was no time allocated to us before we were born. We exist only during the time that allocated to us by God. So as we, and our time, didn't exist before we were born, we, and our time, do not exist after we die. Non-existent is not a kind of existent. Non-existing matter is not a kind of matter. Death refers to the point of the end of a time. Death is state that does not exist. There is no time called death. We are all born and die on different time, as the order of birth does not make any differential in salvation. The order of death also does not create any discrimination. We are all born with equal value of time and from equal time distance to salvation.
If there is no time exist for the death person, then it is impossible to count the time duration of a death person.
If you don't have money, you cannot count your money. So if you don't have time, you cannot count your time. Death person does not have time, so you cannot count the dead person's time. When we count how long a person has been dead, we are actually calculating our own time.
So, even if I was dead for 100 years until I was resurrected, I would not recognize the 100 years of time gap.
No. Because that 100 years only exist for the people who lived during that time, not for you. So you will feel like you have never died. For instance, when we count like this, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, is the zero end of the negative numbers or the start of the positive number?
It could be both.
Yes. Just like the number 0 in this example, we cannot separate the point of time that we die and the point of time that we will be resurrected. So, the time we lived in until we die, and the time we will be living after the resurrection are two separated events, in terms of spatial displacement of those times. But in the perspective of the person who lives in those times, it is impossible to feel the time gap.
So, in our time perspective, we still need to wait for the time of the resurrection, but in the perspective of the person who Jesus talked to on the cross, that day is the day that he will be resurrected.
Yes, in his own time perspective, the day he died will be the day he will meet Jesus. So that's why Jesus said, "Today you'll be with him in heaven," even though Jesus didn't go to heaven on that day.
Thank you for watching Bible Space Time.